We're very happy to have you here. And as I tell all my guests and on me on a regular basis, behave yourself. Okay?
What?
I'm serious.
You talk to your mom that way?
Yes. For good reason. She's very bold.
Does she listen? That's the thing.
Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Need to Know. I'm Gemma Stafford, professional chef, cookbook author, and the creator of Bigger Bolder Baking. And as always, I'm joined by the lovely Shukla, culinary director of Bigger Bolder Baking, and the chocolate chips to my cookie dough.
Fantastic.
And you know why I say that?
Why is that?
Because you hate too much chocolate chips in cookies.
Wait.
And I know that about you because I've seen your Instagram rants.
I'm still working on those cookies.
Ami doesn't like too much chocolate in her chocolate chip cookie.
Are you eating a cookie or are you eating chocolate? I mean...
I do, personally, I agree with you. I prefer more dough.
Yeah, because you need that butterscotchy balance. I could go on, but are we talking about cookies
No, we're
today?
not. No.
What
I'm
are we
going to cut you
about?
off there. Or you cut yourself off. I'm not sure which one. We're talking. So let's get into hot from the oven. June 6th is National Donut Day. On these days, companies like Krispy Kreme, Tim Hortons, even like 7-Elevens, they will hand out free donuts.
Oh, 7-Elevens?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's in select stores.
Mm-hmm.
So just don't walk into your local 7-Eleven on me demanding
Where's my
a
donut?
free donut, okay? Or you'll be that chick on the news in LA in a 7-Eleven. But so some people, and I remember actually out here, like on the news, like your local newscaster will go out to like Encino to a donut shop or whatever and they give away free donuts. So it's nice.
Mm-hmm.
But actually it's not one of these, like, you know, we hear of it's National Pecan Pie Day, it's National Cherry Jubilee Day, these made up holidays. This one is legit.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was established in 1938 in Chicago, the first ever National Donut Day. So it was done in honor of the Salvation Army Donut Lassies, who... I had to look it up.
Yeah,
so I'm going to answer your question. I can see you have a lot of questions. These were women who were sent to France on the front lines 1917. And they were in makeshift huts, feeding thousands of soldiers, giving them essentials and also baking for them. And one of the things that they would make would be donuts.
Wow.
And they're actually kind of credited for making the donuts so popular in America, because when the soldiers came back from war, they were used to these donuts. So it was in honor of these lovely ladies who served more than fried dough.
Wow.
Isn't that nice?
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you know, I'm not a huge donut person, but I feel like now I'm going to go out and get a donut.
Isn't that nice?
Yes.
You know, I will, if you're looking for a recommendation, I think they might have one in your area. Sidecar donuts.
Sidecar donuts. Those are good.
They're very good. They're cake donuts.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're my favorite. We do have a lot of donuts, as you know, on biggerbolderbaking.com. Do you know what you're saying? You're not a big donut fan, but you've made a lot of donuts.
I have made a lot of donuts. They're good. I don't have any problem with a donut. I think I don't know what my problem is.
I know. Can I tell you what my problem is with the yeasted ones? I love them. They're just like, especially the Krispy Kremes, like they're gone in 2 seconds.
Right.
So that's why I like the cake donuts now, because there's more eating in them.
I think it's just that I don't always want to eat something fried. Like if it's already like sweet and sugary and then it's fried, but they're delicious.
They are delicious.
I've not, taste wise, nothing wrong with a donut. Just, you know, I try to limit my donut intake. But, you know, I think maybe for National Donut Day, I'm going to go crazy. And hey, you know what? Also, if you want a project, make your own donuts. That's really fun.
Yeah,
actually.
yeah. We have loads on the website. We have fried, we have unfried, we have yeasted, we have non-yeasted. Is that a thing? Cake donuts.
Yeah.
We have buttermilk donuts. We have sour cream. We have old-fashioned donuts.
Mm-hmm.
We have a lot of donuts.
Yeah.
For people who don't say they don't like donuts.
Maple bars. Those maple bars are really good.
Yeah, you were big into those, actually.
Yeah,
I remember.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay,
We also have the Boston
donuts.
cream. Yeah, I know, right? So that's my news for today.
I love that. Okay, so now I really want to tell you, Gemma, do you know about the cake picnic?
I only heard of this recently.
Okay. All right. Well, for anyone who doesn't know about this, I just stumbled upon this, but apparently this started last year, last April. There's this woman in San Francisco who's a self-described home baker and gardener. Her name is Elisa Songa. but I think she is so much more than that. She started this event called the Cake Picnic, and it was held at the Legion of Honor Museum in San Francisco
Yeah.
on the lawn. And to get in, you have to bring a cake, and you can bake your own cake, or you can buy one from a local bakery and support that bakery. And so that's your ticket to get in, is having a cake. And I don't know how many cakes were there for the first Cake Picnic tour. And I should say that this was inspired by the paintings of Wayne Thiebaud, who was a pop artist. He was really famous for making these iconic, brightly colored paintings of food, pastry. Oh, he also did landscapes and other kinds of paintings, but he did these paintings of cakes and pies and ice cream cones and hot dogs, and they're just bright. You have these like tables of all these different cakes. They're really wonderful paintings. You should check them out. And so she wanted to do this cake picnic this year, they had a cake picnic in April, I think it was, and there were over 1,300 cakes.
Oh my gosh.
And if you look at some of these videos and these photos, you can find them all over the internet. It's just gorgeous and indulgent and wild, and it almost feels like a dream. It is so incredible. And I hope that you have like lots of time to just look and admire all of these cakes that people have brought. And the lawn where they set it up at the Legion of Honor is just, everything about it is beautiful. And then I feel like I read something like at some point, they have a cake box and they have 5 minutes to go and take as many slices of whatever cakes they want. And then you go and take your boxes of cake slices and you go sit with your friends somewhere in the park and enjoy your cake.
Yeah.
But how amazing. How amazing.
Isn't that fun? I have to say, I'm all about this idea. It does sound very San Francisco to me. Living there, I moved there in 2009 and we left in 2013. It does sound something like they do in San Francisco. I love this idea. I love that the entry is also bring a cake and you don't get penalized if it's a store-bought cake.
Right.
Because, I mean, just because you didn't make your own cake doesn't mean you can't enjoy cake.
I think they do encourage maybe local bakery, like small owned, which I think is nice. Instead of going to like get a cake from Vaughn's, you're going to go get find a lovely bakery. Everybody's got a local bakery near them, I'm sure. Anyway, this is not just in San Francisco now. I think they've expanded. They're doing this world tour. So if you go to Cake Picnic, I think it's called cakepicnictour.com, you can find all these cities that they're going to be coming to. I don't think any dates have been announced, but look. And
we should keep an eye on it because I saw there's an LA one.
There is an LA
should
one.
Keep an eye on the LA one. Maybe if we went to the LA one, we could tell. Like we could put it out to our community that we're going to be at the cake one.
Oh yeah. Oh, that would be really fun.
Do you know what I would need? Because already my mind thinks this way. It's like when you go into like an amusement park or something and you just do the rides that are inside the door because you just got so excited and you didn't walk around. I would personally, with all those options, need to do a lap.
Yes.
Are you allowed to do a lap before your 5 minutes? Oh,
I'm sure. I mean, because otherwise, so much of the enjoyment, when you think about like looking at a gorgeous cake, whether it's a single cake or a bunch of cakes, so much of the enjoyment is just seeing it. Because as soon as you start cutting into it, it's over, right?
Yeah.
It's like there's such a joy and when my kids have birthday parties and whatnot, like we keep the cake out for the whole party and then we cut into it because if you bring it out as a reveal at the end, no one's had a chance to enjoy the cake.
Yeah, that's true.
It's really like, so I think probably most of this event is just getting to like walk through these aisles of tables and look at all these creations that people have made or brought. And there's something about putting them all together.
It was really impressive. We're going to share the videos in the show notes for people who are watching on YouTube. I think definitely that's something that we should like have a Google alert for when that comes to Los Angeles.
So I do feel a little stressed. I feel like that moment where you have 5 minutes to go get slices of cake.
That's why you have to do the lap.
Yeah, or I think you need to strategize.
Yeah.
You have to go there with like 10 friends, and you and I each get to bring a bunch of people, and then you all have to like take an aisle.
Yeah.
And go!
Somebody does fruit, somebody does chocolate.
Yeah.
Somebody does like nut-based, like, you know what I mean? No, you really have to be strategic. It's no joking around on. It's serious stuff.
Like how quickly, it's just like 5 minutes it just sounds like you were just like no time. I want to see a video of people actually taking the slices of cake. Is it frantic or is it,
I'd say it's quite civilized. They
Yeah.
do say after, I saw one of the videos and they said that after you can go, once everybody is gone, you can
Yeah.
go again and do another lap because
okay.
there's usually some leftover. Or she said there's always leftovers.
Right.
And there
I'm
is, of
sure.
course, there is 1,300 cakes.
Yes.
That's definitely something that we should put on our to-do list for 2025.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I really, really hope to get there one day. Gemma, this cake picnic tour even makes me think like, wouldn't that be fun for a wedding? Like if you had like, instead of like one big wedding cake, if you had like 7 different cakes out on the table.
And you know what? You just gave me the perfect segue on me. Thank you for that. I love when a plan comes together. Because our next topic is wedding cakes and non-traditional wedding cakes. And in the mix, we're going to have a special guest. So we're going to stick on the topic of cakes and we're going in the mix with a special guest today, my mum, Patricia Stafford. Hi, Mum.
Hi.
Welcome.
Hi, Ami.
Nice to see you.
And you too.
We're very happy to have you here. And as I tell all my guests and Ami on a regular basis, behave yourself. Okay?
What?
I'm serious.
You talk to your mom that way.
Yes. For good reason. She's very bold.
Does she listen? That's the thing.
So I thought, my mum is staying with us right now, and I thought this was a great time to actually include her in an episode because we're talking about wedding cakes and the trend that's going on right now with wedding cakes. So I don't know if you guys have seen this on a lot of TikTok videos. We kind of went from big tiered traditional cakes, and then everybody kind of went naked cake for like a very long time, which is still lovely. I really like a naked cake, but now they're actually going the opposite direction, which is like maximalist, these old Victorian cakes with Lambeth piping, which I'm guessing you probably know what this is. Have you ever done it?
I have done cakes like that with.
Yeah, you did my cake, remember?
Yes, yeah, not quite. I mean, I'm still getting to know this style of piping, so I've done a little bit of it, and I think it's so fun. They turn out so beautiful. You see these beautiful cakes that look like they could be in a painting.
Yeah.
With all this beautiful piping. You've seen these cakes.
I actually never heard the term Lambeth
Lambeth
We're
piping.
gonna-
before.
Yeah,
No.
we're going to share a vote.
Is this royal icing?
It is royal icing. It used to be buttercream. So it's been around since the early 1900s. It used to be buttercream, I think.
It was traditionally royal icing, and
It's traditional. Oh, and then was
yeah.
it now?
Now it can be made with buttercream, but it's
What about the hangy bits?
yeah, all of that stuff. Like with royal icing, it just it makes it so hard.
Yes.
Okay.
We can just say it was
It was-
traditional,
okay.
It was traditionally royal icing.
Okay. So Lambeth piping has been around since the early 1900s, and it was traditionally royal icing. We're going to share a video actually of this lady doing this like beautiful cake, but they're very involved. Definitely not something that like I can turn my hand to a naked cake, but I definitely could not do something like that. But they're very beautiful. So kind of, couples now are going for these more elaborate cakes. And they're also, which wouldn't be my vibe, what I'm kind of like, I think we talked about this in a previous episode, what people are also going for is more of a smaller, maybe like a token cake, like what they call a cutting cake, but then like doing sheet cakes also, which was that's been around for a while in America, right? Like having a sheet cake in the back in the kitchen.
Well, yes. I went to a wedding once where there was this gorgeous 4-tiered wedding cake that was completely fake, except for one small slice. And so the couple got to do their ceremonial slice of cake and feed each other. And then it was carted away as if it was getting cut up.
Yeah.
But instead, the caterers in the back were cutting up sheet cake.
I did not learn this trick until, like, I should have known this long before. I didn't learn until like a few years ago. And, we talked about this last year because Millie Bobby Brown did that like iconic, huge, big cake in Italy where it was just kind of like a flat cake and it was puff pastry and pastry cream and fruit. And they just kind of sliced into it and then they just handed around slices of it.
But I think they also decorated it.
They did decorate
right?
it.
They all did it together at
And
the
that's the trend that they're seeing right now. We're going to share these videos in the show notes. People are doing like almost like I said, it's a kind of interactive wedding cake where they'll do like the table. And often what I'm seeing is meringue, which is what I actually had for my wedding cake, but it wasn't as fun or as fancy as this. But there will be like a pavlova base, and it will have like a like different flavors, and then a cream on top and fruit, and there's like so much going on. But people are kind of just helping
They're
themselves
themselves.
to the
Okay.
wedding cake. I don't know. It looks really fun, and
But something messy, huh?
I think if you don't get there, if you're getting there last, yes, messy.
So are people cutting their own, or are they going up to the cake, and is there a caterer they're cutting for them?
From what I saw, people were digging in themselves.
Oh.
Which, don't you get that cutting fee for when you cut a wedding cake? You ever heard about that?
No.
No.
When you have a wedding cake, there's like a cutting fee. So like if you're making your cake, you're like, oh yeah, sure, you can make your own cake and bring it to our restaurant or hotel. But there's a cutting
Okay.
fee.
So it's like corkage for
Yeah,
wine.
it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have to pay for your own cake to be cut.
Well,
Cheeky, right?
Well, Pat, what do you think about these new wedding cake trends?
Well, number one, I never heard of the term Lambeth icing before, but Lambeth is a part of London, you know. So I mean, I would have said that the only people who would have had those extraordinarily elaborate cakes back in time would have been people who've really, high wealth, like royal couples and all
Yeah.
of the rest. And the cakes would have gone maybe 14 tiers into the sky, but there would have been props the whole way through, little stands, let's say, the whole way through the cake.
Absolutely, yeah.
And there's a good chance that cake, maybe the bottom of it tier would have been cut, maybe, and served. But it was like a Christmas cake. It was fruit.
Oh,
Yeah, traditionally
yes.
in
was a
Ireland,
heavy-
you would have a lot of fruitcake.
Heavy fruit cake.
Uh-huh.
And then one of the other tiers would have been retained to use as a christening cake for the first baby.
Oh,
Wow, and frozen? How would
No.
they have preserved
I
it all
do
that
not know.
well, if it was fruitcake,
They wouldn't have had freezers.
But if it's fruitcake, it's just alcohol
It
and
just
fruit.
stays.
But,
Right.
And
but
then royal
also,
icing
it's
gets poured.
Right.
and people didn't have freezers.
Right, of course.
You are right though,
No.
Mum, because Lambeth, when this came about, that was the style of, I can't remember which royal,
Yeah.
but it was the style of somebody in the royal family, their wedding cake.
It's
and
probably
because
Victoria.
It was used,
Yes, it was Queen.
because it was
Yeah.
used for her cake, then they coined the phrase royal icing because it was used
there we
for
go.
that cake.
That makes sense.
So that makes sense. But
It
yes,
does, yeah.
so talking about
Yeah.
non-traditional cakes right now, which is what's going on, and that's
Yeah.
why you're here, Mum.
Yeah.
You're seeing a lot of, and we'll share photos of these stacked pies, stacked
Okay.
cheesecakes, donut towers, crepes, crepe cakes, macarons, things of that nature, like non-traditional stuff.
Yeah.
And then they say, like, one of the list was like a croque en bouche, non-traditional, but a croque en bouche was the
French-
traditional
French
wedding
traditional.
cake.
Yes,
Yeah.
not traditional in the States. Or
No,
in
no,
other
no.
places. but
No,
yeah, for sure.
or you made one at one point.
I must have been 20 years ago.
Yeah, for a wedding.
Yeah.
It was stunning. I remember I did the caramel.
It was
part. Pulled
definitely 20
caramel.
years ago. I
Yeah.
was chancing my arm. Do you
You
remember how
were.
much
I
I charged
do
for it?
remember. I remember thinking, "Oh my lord, this just doesn't sound right."
Hey, listen, they're still married.
That's what matters.
They're like, we got to stay together. We paid so much.
I
for
know,
that."
right?
And I did the pulled caramel.
You did the caramel
first.
because and then we
Yes,
stuck
yeah.
fresh flowers around it. It was gorgeous.
It was
lovely.
actually. It was spectacular.
Do you have a picture of that?
No, because it was 20 years ago.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
That's true, actually.
Yeah. But that was one that I did. But you're here because, Mum, because when
Yeah.
I saw this topic, you have done something
Yeah.
that I don't see a ton of, but I think is such a smart idea because
Yeah.
often some couples are not interested in a cake and often it's done for the family or whatever. But why don't you tell us about cheesecakes?
Yeah.
But not
So-
cheese, not in the traditional term.
So one of our family weddings, two things happened actually. Auntie Marion also did like a very tall cake stand with cupcakes
Yeah.
for that wedding, which was also really delicious because it became the cake really. And what I did then was, in order that people could come and serve themselves, because actually this wedding was in the house, was at home in the house, so it was quite informal, and they could come and help themselves to cheese. So what we did was we made rounds of cheese. And a friend of mine who's a really wonderful florist, so we got the rounds of cheese. We built them up into a cake. So they became smaller and smaller as they
So
went
for
up.
clarification, in case anyone's wondering, this was cheese, not
Cheese.
cheesecake.
And we're going to share
cheese.
the wheels
Yeah.
of cheese.
Wheels of cheese.
So we're going to
Or
share the
different
photo.
different kinds
Different
of cheese?
types of
Your
cheese.
firm cheeses.
Yeah,
'cause
firm
as you
cheese,
go
and
down,
as they went up, then they became softer cheeses. So by the time you got to the top, I think it might have been maybe camembert or something, you know. And then she beautifully decorated with grapes and herbs, and then I made
Gorgeous.
little mice out of fimo.
Uh-huh.
So they were the bride
Modelling
and
clay.
yeah, they were the bride and groom and the little children. There were 3 children involved in this particular wedding, and they became the little children.
Oh, how
Yeah.
sweet.
So if you look in the
Wonderful.
show, we're going to share the photo in the show notes there. If you're watching on
Yeah,
YouTube, you
yeah.
can see it.
So that
It's really
worked.
gorgeous.
Yeah, it was because actually at that wedding nobody had seen one before.
Yes.
So it became a photo opportunity.
Uh-huh. Oh, I'm sure.
Almost.
Oh, I can't
But
wait
then
to see.
you see, it was also because it was at home, people stayed longer than they might at a venue.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so later as the evening went on, the night went on, they could come back and have maybe a glass of port and a bit of cheese or some grapes with it or whatever, you know.
What
So,
a wonderful idea.
yeah,
Oh,
it worked
so
very well.
nice.
It did
Yeah.
work very well, I have to say.
And I bet people love that more than a piece of cake. To just have
Absolutely.
like a wonderful, like a piece of cheese
Yeah.
or two and a little
Yes.
fruit and some wine.
Especially at 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock in the morning when you're trying to get them out the door and they're still going back for more. I didn't get my cheese. I'm going back for some cheese.
And so the mum, the little
yes,
mice that mum
yeah.
makes are so sweet.
Yeah.
And then didn't you do one for a photo shoot for?
Well, actually, that was accidental. I
Well,
made
they appeared
them-
in a photo shoot.
They did, yeah. And they appeared. I went into a cheese shop in Dublin one day and I said, "Oh, I made those mice.
Wow.
How did you get them?" He said, "I don't know."
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Just the
So-
mice, just the mice that you had these figurines.
Yeah, because people would ask me to make them for them, and I did, and then they would just disappear, and then suddenly one of them appeared in a brochure, a cheese brochure for one of the supermarkets.
in Ireland. Isn't that funny? In Super Value.
I love that.
So if you want any mice, you can email
You
me.
know where the mice are.
Yeah.
We know where the mice are.
Well, I think that's such a wonderful example of a non-traditional cake. That,
Yeah.
Super nice.
Yeah.
Some people just aren't into sweets.
Yes. No. Absolutely.
And in Ireland, like, you know, you think it's European or it's a very French thing to have cheese. We would have had cheese all the time growing up as a cheese course. And we have such amazing cheese. So
Yeah, we do
Like
really,
I would, if
Yeah.
it's it's just so unique. Lastly, I'm going to ask you, Mum, what was your wedding cake? I don't think I know that.
Well, I think, I've almost forgotten, but it would have been traditional.
Yeah.
And it would have been that fruit cake with the royal icing. I can't remember who made it.
Yeah.
And it might have been Auntie Rosaline.
Probably was Auntie Rosaline.
It probably was Auntie Rosaline. So it would have had traditional almond, because royal icing needs something smooth and flat, to go over, because otherwise it just simply won't work. So that's generally what was used. So you would have a layer of your fruit cake, a layer of apricot jam, onto which you would stick the almond paste, and then your royal icing. So you had a sheet of royal icing and you allowed that to set a little, and then you put another sheet on, smooth that on, and then piped. Yeah, and it could be very elaborate. you know.
But you had the royal icing as a sheet, or it would be piped on.
No, it's it's spread.
It's
it's spread.
spread.
Yeah,
and
it's
hardens.
spread, because
Yeah,
it is just egg white and powdered sugar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as you
No.
eat it, you peel it off. You peel off the marzipan, and you get straight to the cake.
Some people do, but you talked about how is the cake preserved. Well, you see, it was preserved by this because it hardened.
Right.
It became almost like a casing, a shell. You couldn't possibly eat it if your baby took 3 years to arrive after the wedding,
Right, right.
So you were kind of hoping for a very fast baby.
Well, also
middle
the
of it all.
fruit cake has some alcohol in it too, right? So,
So,
that would preserve it
yes.
as well.
A lot of
Yes.
sugar and a lot of
A
alcohol.
lot of sugar and a lot of alcohol, yeah.
And
But,
fruit.
yeah, and people, remember, people do worry a little bit about the egg, and because there's egg in the almond paste as well, and that isn't baked, But you see, the thing is that generally these cakes were made in colder climates.
Right.
So hardly ever did you reach a point where you're worried about it. And obviously, if you kept it for 2 years, you're going to peel it off and re-ice it.
Right. Right.
So it becomes something different, or you'll peel it off right away and wrap it.
Yeah.
But back in the day, I mean, it would have been wrapped in wrapping paper, like a little bit of what we call grease-proof paper, which was baking paper, not parchment, just baking paper, and then newspapers, old newspapers.
Yeah.
I mean, now you say, "Oh my goodness, oh that's terrible," but back
That
then
was in the 70s in Ireland.
You know what? It just
It was
absorbs
lawless
moisture
place.
because a lot of spoilage happens just because of excess moisture.
that's true.
you know, So
What was your wedding cake?
my sister made my wedding cake. So at the time, she doesn't really do this anymore at all. But she made a handful of wedding cakes for friends and such. And she offered to make our wedding cake, and she said, "What do you want?" And I said, "Chocolate, chocolate, chocolate," because at that time that was really my favorite thing. And she did this. I have a kind of a fuzzy old picture of it that I'll send over. But it was like a few small cakes and then a big cake and then a few other small cakes and then a big cake. It was kind of wild. And then she put all these fresh flowers on it. It was lovely.
Very
it was delicious.
pretty.
Yes.
Yeah.
We did save the top of the cake and froze it to eat a year later, but it did not taste as good as it did on the day of the wedding.
It didn't.
It did not work out so well, but it was delicious on the day of the
good.
wedding.
Yeah.
I don't have any photos of mine, but I'm pretty sure I have a photo of Kevin. You know, when like it's all usually the groom, isn't it, who like puts it into the wife's face or on her face. And I think there's a photo of me going like this.
I can't understand that one.
I've seen that, and I think it's just a little.
I don't understand.
No. I mean,
on this
with
day
all
when you're
the-
trying to look beautiful.
Yeah. On the note of making your own wedding cake, we recently did a wedding cake that I made. It was not the easiest, but we made it for $20 with a Genoa sponge, and we used ermine frosting. We did jam in the middle. 3 tiers, feeds 72 people. So definitely check that out. And videos on YouTube, and you can find the recipe on biggerbolderbaking.com. And that's a really fun one for the wedding season. So moving into the hotline, I think this is a really good question. And it's about etiquette. One person asks, I was asked to bake a friend's wedding cake. What's the etiquette for that? Should I expect to be paid?
I think that if you want to be paid, you should just be upfront with that. If you have a conversation with your friend, you just say, do you have a budget? If you are if you feel like this is I really feel like you can't really have a general answer for that. If you're a professional cake maker and someone asks you to make a cake,
then they have to pay.
Then I think you have to. I think you should charge, and you can charge a friend's rate. You can just say, I have done things not for a wedding, but as a gift. I've just said, either just pay for the ingredients, you pay for the cost of the cake, and that my time is the gift.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, a nice compromise.
Yeah.
But if you want to do that in lieu of this is my wedding present.
Yes, I think that's quite a nice.
You can also just say, I would love to, I'd love to do this and not charge you.
This will be my gift.
And this will be my gift to you. Which is one way to do it. And it also honestly depends on how large the wedding is. If it's a 500 person wedding, you should probably get
Just
paid
pay
100%.
Yeah, or maybe ask if it is a 500 person, ask a caterer.
Yeah.
Don't ask a friend.
Right. Well, it also depends on the friend.
Who's the
and if
friend?
It's their business. But if it's a wedding for 50 people, or 100 people, and you feel
and
like
if it's
something you can
cupcakes or
do,
something,
definitely. I don't know that's not really an answer that I've given, and but that I feel like it's dependent on the situation. But no matter what, have a conversation with your friend who's asked you to make the cake and be upfront about it and talk about it. Your friends.
So what my thought while you're talking about it there, my thought is to go back to what we were discussing earlier, really, which is perhaps have a reasonably small cake as a centerpiece that anybody would be happy to make for you, wouldn't they? Because it's not going to take 12 hours or whatever. And then have either sheet cakes or cupcakes or something that can be cut. So something like that would be easy enough to do, really. But some of these things are very elaborate and would take days, really, to put together and be very costly as well.
Yeah, I think asking for the price of ingredients is very fair, but unless it's your gift.
Right.
Yeah.
And also,
it's all circumstantial.
If somebody asks for it, you might think about what you're capable of doing.
Yes.
And then just present some ideas. I can make this cake for you. I feel like I'm not going to be able to make a Lambeth cake for you, but I could do a naked cake. I could do, you present some ideas that feel okay for you, because the last thing you want to do is end up feeling resentment over any of this experience.
Exactly.
And it is also okay if you don't think you can do it, to just say, I don't think I can do it.
Yeah, it's such an important day.
Yeah.
I would be careful. Yeah, definitely err on the side of caution. And on that note, and we're going to leave it with this, are kind of segueing, are sheet cakes okay for weddings? And I think we all agree that yes, they are.
Oh,
Yes,
100%.
and I will throw in, I have seen on Instagram and TikTok these giant sheet cake wedding cakes. I don't know if you've
Yeah,
seen
I
these
have.
where
Yeah.
they take these 6-foot long table and they set up this incredibly long flat sheet cake, just simply decorated with white frosting and then filled with
Nice.
wildflowers
Oh,
and
lovely.
they are so
Spectacular.
beautiful. They
Yeah.
are so beautiful.
Yeah.
And fun.
And that is something
Yeah.
that if you're making a cake for your friend's wedding, you just get some sheet pans, like some 12 by 18 inch and 2-inch high, and you make a stack of these, and then you can decorate that in so many ways. It's so
Yeah.
easy and beautiful.
That sounds really lovely, actually, and it's simple.
yeah,
Yeah,
and you
and
could
free
definitely
form, kind of.
you could make that for 500 people.
You could
easy.
easily, and the decoration is simple.
And do you know what I
You
like
know,
about
it's
this?
It's not a time consuming.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not decorating the side of a cake. It's like, this is
Yes.
where I fall down on cakes.
Yes.
It's like sheet cakes are my jam because you just spread it on top.
Right.
Decorating the sides of cake and not making it look knobbly and gnarly
Mhm.
is that's tricky
Yeah.
for me.
Mm-hmm.
So great. That's awesome. I learned a lot.
I
it's-
did too.
As well as I.
No, that was really interesting. Yeah, we are heading into this season, so give people some ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much, Mum, for being here.
Sure, you're welcome. Where else would I be?
Yeah, that's true.
I don't have too many places to be.
That is true.
Only so many people will put up with me.
You're invited back
Thank you.
with the same precursor. Ami, lovely as always.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening. Please like and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts, and we will see you back here again really soon. Take care.
Bye.
From HRN and the Bold Baking Network, you are watching the Need to Know Baking Entertainment podcast.